Ladies and gentlemen, we're floating in space.
Hey everyone, I'm co-pilot and welcome aboard the Pleasure Cruise. Today's onboard entertainment will be about the casting gag trope in VTubing. Okay, so I'm sure you all know the tried and true formula for a good VTuber casting. 1. You think of a cool character. 2. You run auditions until you find a person who acts pretty similar to that character type by default and make them do it. Cute person for cute character, passionate person for passionate character, reserved person for reserved character. This is just the easy mode. If you're an indie, you just design a character around your existing personality, assuming you have one or maybe a friend has one you can borrow, and there you go, same principle. But of course, if you exclusively cast characters this way, you miss out on some, let's say, interesting, creative opportunities. Like, what would happen if you did the opposite? What if the cute character was played by someone who was, get this, a fucking maniac? This right here is the world of VTubing's more subversive characters. Characters whose existence is designed to play with the audience expectations, as opposed to the more complementary characters I described earlier. Okay, you read out this next part.
What?
I need you to read the quote.
That's not a real quote. Wait, when did you learn script writing?
I didn't ask for any input, just read the quote. It takes too long when only you make the videos, so I'm taking some initiative.
The point of the videos is that I'm supposed to make them myself, dude. I didn't ask for a co-pilot.
This is unnecessary exposition that is just making new viewers confused. Just read the quote, Captain.
Alright. Fine. In its purest form, the casting gag character is one who deliberately creates or leans into a comedic juxtaposition of a character with particular traits being played by a talent who exhibits conflicting or contrary traits. There you go. There's a strict definition for the type of people who actually edit the VTuber wikis.
Thank you, Captain. I'm pretty confident by only explaining this much, you've probably got a few examples coming to mind already, but I want to note 2 extra parameters for this trope. A. The contradiction of a casting gag character must be intentional to a large degree, otherwise that would be the trope, being trash. B. The contradiction of a casting gag character must be primarily played for comedy, or at least be intended as quite amusing. Nice. Let's throw the visual learners a bone and put some lovingly rendered anime faces on screen for an example. So the first name off the top of my head for this trope has to be Nijisanji's Enna Alouette, an almost textbook example of what I'm describing. Enna's design is of a colorful angelic songbird, tasked with the divine purpose of healing human hearts. Her profile refers to her as singing a love song for all the souls of the living. Enna's personality is
fucking bitch! Don't ever say that again! Do you ever try to drive over your grandfather at the car? No,
She's blunt, snarky, cantankerous, and she swears like Vivzipop after something mildly inconvenient happens.
Oh gosh, somebody just counted out the full final scores. Selene 78, Folga 72, Uki 54, Enna 36.
Why the f did you count it, you fucker? I was so happy that nobody was taking the point. You made me fucking angry again? Get out of me!
Girl has a fan game that's in development at time of writing, and it's called Enna and the Mission to Destroy Happiness. Her misanthropic streak speaks for itself. And often enough, her streams make use of the fact that seeing this particular model talk the way she does is inherently kind of ridiculous and funny on its own. That's the pure, distilled essence of the casting gag trope right there. If you do it wrong, it's gimmicky and wears out its welcome, but if you do it right, it's a fun bit and gives you some interesting creative avenues to explore. Of course, this trope offshoots into several other directions, like the slightly more popular gremlin and psychopath characters, who work on a similar principle, but with the addition of a more actively mischievous or vindictive or malevolent streak to guide their behavior, rather than purely operating from the character mismatch. I would consider these types of characters to be an evolution of the casting gag format, and I think that the popularity of these offshoots might make some audiences feel that the vanilla-style casting gag is a little bit dated or too basic to really get excited about. It is literally just, what if character but opposite. Not quite meeting the levels of nuance or emotional dynamics that most fans expect from their VTubers in this new enlightened age. Speaking of, there are also characters who subvert the expectations of the kayfabe or break fourth wall, breaking into the performance, who do so for reasons other than just comedy. This is the kind of position I would place folks like Auro Crony or Tsukino Mito, or maybe Mori Calliope and Crimson Rose. Although those two are a bit fuzzy, it's complicated. All those folks are a different story. But with all the basic preamble done, I want to highlight one of my favorite casting gag characters to give you an idea of not just what the trope is, but how it can be elevated. To see this technique in a modern context, I present the main subject of this video, Hiodoshi Ao from Hololive's device.
かわいい女の子かと思った。じゃじゃーん、青くんでした。バイバーイ。
If you aren't familiar, Ao is part of the Regloss Gen, which is a slightly more music and unit-oriented group than Hololive's usual output. To capture a more casual demographic, Regloss ended up being a bit back to basics for Hololive, less of the supervillain societies and cosmic jailbreakers in favor of more grounded and mundane designs. No extensive lore stuff really, just here are some interesting people with surprisingly normal jobs and aspirations for a change. Go watch M if you want. On paper, the character of Hiodoshi Ao is a hardworking, tomboyish mangaka with sharp dress sense and a silver tongue. She's smooth and suave, and she's a real big hit with the ladies. And yeah, that's true on paper, but well,
Where'd it go?
here in the real world, Ao is about as smooth and unflappable as a 15-year-old boy trying out the pickup lines he learned on a meme subreddit.
まずは今日ね、初めて二人で絡むんですよ、青くん。どう
そうです
もどうも。
あ、どうもどうも。
どうもどうも。ねえ、
でもなんだか
うん
初めてな感じがしないな。
うん。なんで？
まるで、
うん。
今日という日を夢に見ていた。
ああ、そう。
そんな感じですかね。
夢見たの？
はい。
いつ？どんな夢？
うん
うん。
覚えてない。
Actually, that's a bit oversimplifying. It would be one thing if the Ao character was just deliberately terrible at flirting, making all her interactions an exercise in pure cringe comedy bordering on sex pest material. But that's not what she is. Well, not entirely. The better comparison is that Ao is actually in part a parody of a pickup artist, a preening insincere flatterer whose smooth talking can't really hide the fact that she does, in fact, say that to all the girls.
ちょっと僕のこと好きなんじゃないですか。
いや、でもみんなにそういうこと言ってるんでしょ？
言ってないですよ。何見てたんですか。僕が今までの人たちに。
求婚何回もしてるの見ちゃったな。
そんな全部本気だと思ってるんですか？
本気なんじゃないの？
本気に見えていたのだったら僕の演技力に乾杯って感じで。
乾杯。
The character is a total slimeball and not even slightly self-aware of how transparently disingenuous and desperate her womanizing act comes across. All that is a great start for a compelling character, but it's the details in performance that really sells her best stuff. Ao's a surprisingly polished performer who's extremely quick on her feet, like with her habit of assuming that insults thrown her way are actually just compliments that were just slightly misworded. There's a commitment to maintaining a near-blinding degree of ego that makes the character's pratfalls and bumbling incompetence land really well.
理想のイケメンになった後、ずっと思ってたこと言ってもいい？
いいよ。
でっかいおっぱいに顔をうずめてみたい。
あ、どうぞ。
やったー！理想のどうして僕がこんなに青なんだ。これ2回やったら恥ずかしいやつ。
Of course, the cherry on top for Ao is that she's a rare VTuber character that actually has a thematic undercurrent of sorts. Most of the girls find her attempts at flirting pretty unimpressive for sure, but they do actually like her. It's just they like the parts of Ao she seems most desperate to hide, like her clumsiness, her dorky interests, her corny sense of humor. Ao is pretty cringe, but that's never been the problem. The problem, within the realm of the fiction of course, is that she's insincere. As much as Ao wants praise and attention for being smooth and handsome, the awkward charms she already has are what a lot of people find to be more compelling and genuine, and her attempts to hide that are reason she gets consistently roasted and played off. Yes indeed, a VTubing character has the life-changing message of don't pretend to be someone you're not. I'll give you all a moment to recover. Naturally, I would be remiss not to point out the similarities Ao has with Nijisanji's Hyakumentenbra Salome, who also walks the line of having her audience laugh at her flailing attempts at poise and grandeur while simultaneously supporting this goofy, eccentric shut-in in her ambitions to become a true lady of class. No matter how much of a strong and confident exterior these characters may want to project, the audience actually connects with the underlying vulnerabilities more strongly. They enjoy the surface-level antics, while acknowledging hints that there's more emotional depth underneath the facade. It's the main reason Salami's original song from earlier this year works so well, not just because it's really sweet and just well put together in general, but because when someone like Salome lets down the ironic mask to be more vulnerable, the context of the character just makes it feel that bit more special and personal. Aspiration. It's a secret ingredient for many good casting gag VTubers. Maybe they don't live up to their lore now. But maybe someday, if they give it their all, they just might.
Alright, you done? Finished your little ChatGPT summary video thing?
Don't compare me to ChatGPT. My dad could eat ChatGPT's dad for breakfast. Not in a vor way, like in a metaphorical.
Alright, yes, enough of that. I'll handle the outro. Yeah, that should do it for this video. Should state for the record, by the way, that in any creative medium there are going to be the edge cases and weirdos that don't neatly fit into any particular box, and I will remind folks that trope discussions should be about explaining what works rather than trying to set up new strict rules that everyone has to follow. Things are more creative when people have the space to spread their wings, go against the grain and test things out a little. And as such, I'd advise against getting too deep in the weeds of who fits where because it's honestly not that crucial. Even if a performer fits the mold of a particular trope, it's almost always a simplification to exclusively define them in those terms. People and art are more complicated than that. The tropes and ideas I've attached to Ao are primarily analytical tools to talk about just some of the cool things she does, and hopefully they've been somewhat interesting to think about. That'll be all. Make sure to press some of the buttons underneath the video on your way out. The next one's going to be up when they finally let Pluto back in. Captain out.